The first time I was asked to do a book was in 2001 or 2002 when Hawaii made it to the NCAA tournament, and there was a TV crew. CBS did a documentary on me, and they sent a TV crew here to Newfoundland. And when they came down, they interviewed my brothers and they saw where I grew up. When they came back to do of the their part of the story with me, they were blown away just based on the fact of the small town that I was from, what Newfoundland was like, and the people they met while they were on their journey. And I remember the producer offered me at that point, he offered me to do a movie and a book at that point, but I was just a young kid. I was very insecure, and I just laughed it off and never paid no attention to it. I think when I returned home to Newfoundland and was finally able to play in front of family and friends, and I think the impact just after the games and signing autographs and talking with the kids and different people there, I felt I could have I think my story could impact and help a lot of people. So then I followed up with that, and with myself with the author Blake Murphy out of Toronto, writes for the Raptors and Athletic. So that's the first time, that's when we decided to do the book. Process was very, very, very grueling, I would say. It would be an understatement, but I'll give you some breakdowns of how it kind of went. So he flew down from Toronto. We had kind of deadlines and stuff that we had to meet. So we put together everything, and I've been writing down things and kind of keeping track for years now on when this time would come. And a lot of stuff is fresh in my mind and a lot of stuff wasn't. So basically we interviewed probably 7 to 10 hours per day, and we kind of went through everything. We kind of just started in chronological order so I wouldn't forget things, and then after every day I just hit the bed and I'd be exhausted as if I played 3 games of basketball and they all went into overtime. Like I just hit the bed and I was just completely exhausted. And then I'd wake up in the morning and kind of have to do it all again because we were on this schedule. So, and then we'd start off every morning with follow-ups and fill in kind of the blanks of things that were missed from the day before. But I think you kind of got to understand my story. It's kind of, I'm telling the story. I'm not so much writing a book. And if anybody has read the book, you kind of understand it's just like me here talking to you guys right now. And that's what we were kind of going for. We wanted to be very, very easy to understand. We wanted to be as if you were seeing my story through my eyes. And it was a process, I think. I think my life from an early age, there was a lot of tragedy that kind of shaped me. Then it's growing up in a small town, and then it's dreaming big, and then trying to figure out ways to get out of that small town to chase your dreams. And then it's just the roadblocks. There was just roadblock after roadblock of things that would come up. I mean, just even when I left Newfoundland, I think I was 16, 17 years old. I picked St. Thomas Aquinas up in Ontario, in Oakville, and that alone was a journey just to leave home. I mean, I'm leaving all my family. I'm leaving Mandy, my girlfriend at the time, was my wife now. I mean, I'm basically leaving everything, and I'm just going chasing this dream that a lot of people just thought was crazy. But I had my mind kind of set on it, and I felt at that point I was a young man, but I was still trying to figure it all out. But I was pretty confident in basketball. Was one thing I was always confident in. And just going up there, and they had the Nike tournament at the camp that was down the road from me, like 10 minutes away, that was by invitational only. And if you read my book, you would know all that dilemma there when I got selected to represent Newfoundland. But then because I was leaving Newfoundland, I never got to attend this Nike camp. So if you rewind, I should say, if you go back, to that event, and if I had to take part in that camp, for instance, there could have been 300 scouts there. I would be playing against players all across the country, and I'm pretty confident I would have done the same thing I did everywhere else I did, and that would have led to scholarship offers, and I would have been able to return home to Newfoundland and finish out my senior year. But because I didn't attend that Nike camp, well, it was an uphill battle. And then I select a school. It was a good Catholic school, and the teachers go on strike. There's some questions and stuff coming in. I'll get through them there. I kind of taking notes and I'll remember what they are, but I'll touch on a lot of it coming in. So when I select that school, again, you got to understand when you're at that age, or it's just like starting a new job, but magnify that into sense you're trying to make a team, you're trying to fit in, you left everything I knew from behind. I left all my friends, my coaches, everything, and I'm going into an unknown, and now you're here and you're trying to prove yourself again. And I know that's part of it. I know that's the battle, and that's just the way life is. But you look at it two ways. I dominated Ontario basketball, and because the teachers went on strike, so we did a preseason tournament, I destroyed that. I think it was averaging 35, 40 points a game. Then these scouts want to come see me, and they have no games for me to watch. So this was a critical point in just trying to get a scholarship. So I thought outside the box. So I went and I think Howie took me to Staples, and I got 100 VHSs at the time. So it's not DVDs and it's not hard drives or scan discs. It was VHSs. And this big fancy school I was in that had like 4,000 people had this huge video room. So I went into the video room and copied. I think I could do 7 videos at a time. So I got one of my buddies up there, which is all this whole part of the story, which is hilarious to me, is I got my buddy to kind of get me in the gym, and I was doing crossovers and dunks and all this stuff. And at the end of the highlights, I put on my grade 11 championship game against Harbor Grace in Fatima Academy's gym. So a lot of people are chiming in there are from out home. You guys would probably remember that game if you follow basketball at home. The place was blocked. And it's very fitting in the fact that that's the game that got me recruited. So I'll jump ahead. So when I end up getting recruited, I did ask the coach. I was like, well, what stood out to you on the tape? He's like, no. He said, I just fast forward that garbage. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, we don't watch the highlight stuff. He's like, I went straight to the game. And I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah. He said, I love the game. So then it got me thinking, well, imagine if I'm playing at home for my senior year, and we're playing in Newfoundland, where I'm from, family and friends, everybody's there, and now you got all these big-time college schools coming down, and I'm dropping 50 or 60. I mean, I could have had a chance to go to, a Duke or a North Carolina, you know what I mean? Some of these prestigious schools. So it's funny how it all played out. So anyway, I could record. I kind of had it down to a science. I think I could do 6 to 8 videos at a time. So I go in first thing in the morning. As soon as I get to school, I go in and I'd take up all the VHSs and I'd record that video. And then I think by lunchtime, I put in another set, right? So I done this for weeks upon weeks. And we had a guidance counselor, and they went and he went and got me the addresses out of a textbook there for the school. So then I sent all the VHSs to the schools that I wanted to go to. And I think I have it over here, actually. It's funny. Aunt Betty brought me up this box a while ago. I'll show you some of the stuff. This is really a blast from the past. So let me see. I think in this box was a bunch of stuff. This is a senior men's tryout Some big names on this one, big guys on there. But this is just a box of papers I had of newspaper clippings. This is an old one here. That's the Avalon District. I don't know what there could be anything in this box, but there's I want to get to the. This is when we won the championship in Fatima. This is it here. So what I done was I copied all the addresses down. So this is the University of San Diego, Stanford. The ones are circled, Delaware. These are the ones that I sent. So I basically wrote the addresses. I Googled the coach's name and attached it, memoed to him. So these are all the ones are checked off. And you see Duke, Auburn, some big time schools there. It's funny that's the process that I had. You know, so I just picked random schools. Tubby Smith at the time was at Kansas, Louisville, Kentucky. So it's funny, but and as you can see, the numbers are going up. So this is up to 66 here. I don't know if there's ones on the back. And he just keeps going. That's the championship net when we won. But it could be anything in that box. But it's funny. See, this is when I got all fancy after I typed them up and sent them out. But that was kind of my process. So that tape of sending them out to these schools, that sparked a lot of interest for people to come see me. But I guess it was the game at Fatima. So then from there, because the teachers were on strike, we couldn't get to play. Now, the weird part about it is I was at a Catholic school. So on one block, right across the street, like literally across the street, there was a public school, and they had their games and they had everything. So it was only the Catholic school board. So I wanted to change schools, but then it's like, okay, I just left everything I know and I came up here, and the coaches and the players at this school were telling, oh no, strike's gonna be over, because they didn't want me to leave. So I'm there thinking like, okay, I did not, no offense, any kids, anybody watching, I did not come up here for the academic part. I'm up here chasing a dream, actually. I'm chasing a fact of, I'm trying to get a college scholarship. I know the academic part is important, but for me, I'm doing whatever I can so I can play basketball at the highest level. So I chose not to cross the street and go to the public school, because I kept being told every day by these teachers, oh, we're going off strike. And sure enough, they canceled the season, and the following week the teachers' strike was over, and they forfeited our season. So for me, I was devastated, but I met up with some people and I started playing. I went down to this one tournament and I played with a school called Westwood. Westwood was down in Jana Finch, tough part of Toronto. So I went down there and I played a North American Invitational. And first game I scored 28. The second game they wouldn't pass me the ball. They had a pretty good player on their team that got a scholarship to the States the following year, but for some reason I was allowed to play with this tournament, but they kind of bonded together and wouldn't pass me the ball. So the second game I think only scored 20, but I just get the rebound, go down and shoot it myself. Kind of typical for me, but anyway. But I got some notice from there, but this was late in the year, so a big school that was watching me there was Syracuse and Bernie Fine, and they wanted to put me in a prep school. So they were putting me in a prep school in Pennsylvania, and the big thing about the prep school was like, because my age, I was only 18. In Ontario you can do and the States you can do a grade 13 or a pre year before you go to college. So I was like, okay, here's another year for me, and I'll come down here and I'll tear this shit up, and I'll be, I'll get a big school like I was wanting to. And then we went down to the States with this a guy in this book, Wayne Dawkins and Chris Van Zyl. We went down to the States and we toured and we played against a tournament in New York, and I was playing against a lot of kids that were going to the either the NBA or were going to college, and we ended up winning, and I had 48 or something in the championship and got MVP, and I was like, I think it's time. I think I don't want to do the prep school route. I'm ready now. I want to go to school. So there was some interest and stuff there, and a lot of scouts at that, and there was probably 20, 30 offers that were coming about from a camp that I went to and from this, and I decided to go to the University of Hawaii just on a visit, just to, you know, you have to understand, at that age, I'm thinking I might never have a chance to go to Hawaii. So why not? You get 4 or 5. I think you get 4 or 5 recruiting trips you can go each year. So I wasn't after using any. So I was like, let's go out to Hawaii and check it out. So anyway, long story short, I signed to University of Hawaii, and I felt like the people were amazing. It was an island. I couldn't have picked any further away. I went from the most northeastern point of North America to the most western point. But I just felt like that was the right decision. And at this point in my career, you have to understand as well, is I didn't have a lot of people that went this way before me. So there wasn't a lot of advice out there. There wasn't a lot of people that, like this day, there was no cell phones. There was no internet. Like, you couldn't just pick up the phone and call someone like, oh, what should I do? So there really was, I was traveling a road less traveled. So from there, rough first year, I'll just talk, all this is in my book. I know people, I'll just talk a little bit about the struggle or the journey, and then I'll answer some more questions and some advice. There's been a few questions come in there about advice to give kids and stuff, and I'll get to that. But for me, at that point in my career, I had no idea I'd ever have a chance to play pro. Like, it was like steps along the ladder. So right now, first goal was college scholarship, free education, play basketball at the the highest level as an amateur, and see where it takes me. So that's where that went. And the first year was struggling. I had ankle surgery in December, early December. Got to come home that winter, or that Christmas. Came home with a boot on, a cast. But when I came out of that, ankle felt amazing. Got in a lot of repetitions then with practice, and always on the scout team, which goes against the first team, and I was kind of holding my own, and it just gave me confidence. It allowed me to adapt to the new situation. It allowed me to get stronger. I think I went to the University of Hawaii at 170. When I came home 8 months later, I was put on 20, 25, 28 pounds. So finally got on a strength and conditioning program. Got to learn time management and understand, work on towards my degree, and just trying to figure it all out. So I think the redshirt year was a great year, blessing. I thought at that point it gave the coaches a lot of confidence in me. Returned that summer, and that's when my Uncle Junior died. That was devastating. Obviously, to lose my parents when I was 5 would shake anybody, or shake them, or rock them. I mean, I was 5. I look at my daughter now, and I know I don't know what she'd do without me or Mandy. So it's one of those things where you're just like, it really hits home there now. But I had an amazing support staff with Aunt Betty and Uncle Junior and their family, and you learn to adapt, and you figure it out, I would say. I mean, there was a lot of lonely nights, but Uncle Junior dying, and the way he died when we came in from fishing, me and Howie were out fishing, and he just collapsed and died right there. And you'll never forget that day, you'll never forget that moment. But I think with all the loss, I think what it does for me is it puts things in perspective. It puts things in the fact of, you start to appreciate life, you appreciate the people around you, you appreciate the things you have. You appreciate what hard work really means, perseverance, determination, like all these characteristics that define me. I learned through loss, and I learned through struggles. So I felt I had to continue then. I I felt that Uncle Junior was always there for me, was my biggest fan, always watching me, always, taking me to games, doing whatever I needed, whatever, he was always there, him and Aunt Betty. But I felt now I had to get back at it, so I went and played with Team Canada, and then I went back to the University of Hawaii. That year was my true freshman year because I redshirted. So from there, struggled, coach not playing me. I'd play 10, 15 minutes, score 5, 6, 10 points, and then the next game probably wouldn't play. It wasn't until about 7, 10 games left in the season where I was just tearing practice up, and he had no choice but to play me. And the seniors were advocating for me to play, and I just got in there and I just tore it up then. I finished the season really strong, and we got into the WAC tournament. I think we went in there one of the last place teams. We end up winning the WAC tournament, and in the championship game to go to the tournament, I had 28 points, I want to say, or 32, but I hit the decisive points to put it into overtime, and then in overtime, I think scored 7 or 8 of our 10 points. So at that point, my whole life just changed. It changed from a standpoint of the support staff in Hawaii was there if I needed anything. It changed in my demeanor and how confidence I had, and knowing then that what I was working for, because a month before this, I was getting ready to transfer because I wasn't playing. So I was like, I can't sit here and do anything more. Like, I was putting in the time before practice. I was putting in the extra work. I was destroying practices. It was one of those things where it's just like, Coach Wallace just did not believe in freshmen. He just didn't trust them, and that's fine. That's the way it is. You got to work your time. You got to pay your dues. Luckily for me, I got my chance, and when I got my chance, I was ready to rock. And I just propelled that, and that kind of put me on the big stage, because then I'm coming into this tournament as MVP. I'm going into NCAA. Everybody's talking about me. People are coming to Newfoundland, doing videos. My whole story gets out there. I'm in ESPN, Sports Illustrated. So it kind of solidified me as a basketball player. And then the following year, I knew that summer going in that I was playing. I knew that summer going in that I knew what I was working for. So I amped it up a bit, and I came back to Hawaii, and I was ready to rock. We had some great coaches there with, Scott Rougeau, Bob Nash, who's a legend out there, Jackson Wheeler, and obviously Riley was the head man. And I think after that showing, he put a lot of faith and trust in me that year. And I was, as an athlete, I think you live for those moments. Like, I lived for those moments. I imagined those moments, and they're not always good ones, but I imagined when I was a kid playing on the highway. You can see the picture behind me. Like, I remember, I imagined when I was playing on the highway to be in that moment, to take the last shot, to envision what's going on, to envision that moment. And it's one of those things where, it can make or break you, and I always live for those moments. I live to shine, or I live to take that pressure. If we were going to win, it was with me. If we were going to lose, I was going to take that responsibility every day as well, because I felt I put in the work every day to shoot that shot, to shoot that last shot. And then you develop that rapport within your teammates as well, where they have confidence in you. After that, the rest is history. I went through Hawaii, left as a junior, had an amazing year. We went to the tournament 2 times, NIT once. Probably one of the best teams that ever went through there, in my opinion. And then I decided to enter the NBA draft. Again, all this stuff was in my book. A lot of people said I probably should have left as a sophomore. NBA is based on a lot of potential. A lot of stocks and drafts had me leaving as a sophomore. I think as a sophomore, I didn't even understand, or I still didn't know if I was at that level. As a junior, I felt I was. I was top 5 or 7 in scoring, averaged 20 points a game. And this goes back to when we were talking. This goes back to, when I was talking about the schools and different things to select. I didn't envision the chance to play in the NBA. To me, Hawaii was amazing for me and my development as a basketball player. But there's some great players and stuff that come out of Hawaii. You don't get the same scouting, let's say, because those scouts got to go out to Hawaii 5-6 hours, where if they're on the West Coast or you're in UCLA or you're up in Boston and you're playing, there's a lot of scouts that are right there in driving distance. So that kind of hurt a lot of players that came from Hawaii with their chances of getting drafted, because they would see us when we were on the road. And when you're on the road, you necessarily don't play as good as you do at home, because when you're at home, you're in your comfort zone. Not an excuse, just trying to give you guys a gas of everything that's going on. So I decided to enter the NBA draft. Difficult decision, but again, it's one of those roads that you take that you don't know what's there wasn't many people that came before me. I mean, there was Steve Nash, and at that point was Jamal McGlure that kind of I knew of or heard of. And I didn't know Steve as well at that time to call him up and be like, hey, buddy, what should I do here? And then I trusted some wrong people. There was catch-22, though. I worked out for 11 or 13 teams in order for me to go back to college. I would have had to pay back that money. So I think the totals were 70, 80,000, because they fly you in first class and you stay in the best hotels, and then any money that they gave you, I would have had to pay back. And that would have been tough for me because I didn't have any money. So it would have been one of those things where you have to figure out what to do. So I decided to enter the NBA draft. It probably, obviously looking back, hindsight is 20/20. If I had to get drafted, I wouldn't be saying this, but I'm looking back and I'm thinking, okay, I can go back for my senior year. I graduate as a junior. I can work on my master's, and I could just really focus on basketball because, I set out to get my degree. I got that. So let's just focus on the game. So, again, I made a decision and I lived with it. I ended up going undrafted. Horrible night. Probably one of the toughest nights of my basketball career. The agents I had at the time got all my family and friends at the Indian Motorcycle downtown Toronto, and there was probably 30 TV crews. Like I was the next thing coming out for Canadian basketball across our country. And then I had a great college career, so I had a lot of support. But coming out and doing a party when I was projected anywhere, the highest I ever was like 17, and the lowest I was projected was 30s and 40s. So I was like, all right, let's roll the dice. They had a party. I had to trust in these people. Then we go, I have to sit through 60 names. I'm sitting in front of 60 names. So the first round goes through. I'm already pissed. I'm losing my mind. Like, what the hell's going on here? Because I was hoping, late first round would be, what I wanted. So I'm sitting there. My brothers are there. Everybody's there up from Newfoundland. Manny's there. And every time they do a pick, so David Stern will come on, and then boom, cameras come on, the whole place lights up, and you just see my face of disappointment. And I'm just, to be honest with you, I'm holding back the tears, right? Because I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is going on here now? Why is this happening to me? Like, is the shit just keep hitting the fan over and over again? And then my phone was ringing, and it's these people are, NBA teams are calling me. And we're into like 30, 35 this round of the draft. And I'm like, okay, I'm projected anywhere now. And my name was coming up on the best available players. So Jay Billis would do your next best. And my name would come up of, top 5 next best. And it just keep passing me, and people weren't taking me. And I'm just thinking, like, this is not happening, right? So these teams would call me, and I'd be like, just take me. I was like, I don't care where I play for anybody. Just give me a shot. And they were like, no, Carl, we have no picks left. I'm like, well, call my agent. And they're like, no, his phone is not on. I look at my agent, and his phone is dead. And I swear to God, my four brothers were going to kick the shit out of this guy. It was pretty funny at the point now when I look back on it, but I was like, what am I doing? Why is this happening? So then to top it all off, we go, the whole night I go undrafted. Everybody's there is disappointed. Obviously, you can only imagine what I'm feeling like. This is everything I've worked for to this point. And then you have, not only that, it's the magnitude of the money that's involved. There's a shoe contract with a sporting company. Then you have there was a Wheaties contract. There was Air Canada. There was General Motors. We're talking millions of dollars. And like all that shit just went out the wind. Like everything just vanished. And to top it all off, I hop in the truck after the night, after I do my interviews and try to put on the brave face and everything. And I get in the car and my pants ripped from my crotch to the top of my belt buckle. And it was this cheap ass suit this agent was after buying for me. And I just remember just staring up and like, is there anything else going to go wrong tonight? So anyway, for me, that was a point where I'm just looking at an ultimate low in my basketball career. But it also put a chip on my shoulder. It was like, it's time to just get back to the hard work. I think when any of these things happened to me, no matter what it was, for me, what I would do was I just seemed to work harder. And I think that's what made writing the book so hard, because I had to live them as vivid as possible so that the reader would understand and try to get an understanding of what I'm going through. So I'm reliving these moments and I'm just thinking like, that was a tough one. And then the next day we're writing and be like, that's a tough one. And it just kept coming. So 2 weeks later, I signed with the Indiana Pacers. I went to training camp there, like a mini camp, and I tore that up. But I kind of had a chip on my shoulder. And the president was there, Donnie Walsh, famous guy in Indiana. He was with the Knicks for a while. And I don't know if I put this in the book or not, but Donnie was there and he said, Carl, we want you to play for the Pacers. And I said, Donnie, no offense. I said, I'm on the way to Minnesota for the Timberwolves. And I said, then I'm going to Chicago. And I said, I'm signing with whoever wants me. And I said, I'm done with the bullshit. I said, no offense. And I'm talking to, multi-million-dollar president of a team, but I just had this chip on my shoulder because they had a pick that I thought they were going to take me. He's like, well, Carl, you were my pick. And I was like, well, why didn't you pick me? And he said, well, I wasn't in the war room. They call it the war room when they all get together and they select their picks. That day, his granddaughter got hit by a car and she was okay, but he said, I was in the hospital the whole time with my son. My granddaughter got hit, and he said, they selected someone else. They said, I wasn't there. He said, you were my pick if you were available. So anyway, I said, oh, listen. I was like, you give me a contract, I'm back. The day you give me a contract, I'm back. So anyway, this was a Friday or Thursday. Monday morning, he had the contract, and I was back in Indiana training. So that was a bright point, obviously, but it wasn't fully. It was most money I've ever seen, but it was I think 60 to 70% the first year, and then 70 to 80% the second year, which was a lot for an undrafted rookie. So I was like, okay, it shows that they want me. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So we go in there. I'm training all summer with them. I was working with the legendary Isaiah Thomas, who really was taking me under his wing. He wanted me to be like a combo. So I was working with him. I mean, the rifleman was in there, Chuck Persons, working with him. And then there was a change at the top. They end up bringing in Larry Bird as the president, or the GM. Donnie was the president. They brought in Larry as the GM. And he fired Isaiah Thomas, and they brought in Rick Carlisle, who was coaching Dallas at the time. And then we went from having 13 players under contract to Rick Carlisle signing 4 guards with him. Kenny Anderson, he had Jameson Brewer, Anthony Johnson. So we went to have 17 guaranteed spots. So I still felt safe. He used to put me, Rick Carlisle would always put me to these tests, check me into the game, sat there the whole game. He's like, I sat you there on purpose. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, there was a minute and 10 seconds left in the game. We were already up. Just puts me in the game and draws up a 3-point play for me. So I was like, all right, let's go. So I hit one, and we got a steal, and I hit a second one. I walked in, and I probably shouldn't have done this, but I walked in and was like, that good enough for you? So I had this swagger about me and confidence, but you know, I think it came down to numbers. Like I was working with Reggie Miller every day. You know, you think about at one side of the court, there was me, James Jones, who played with the Heat and won championships with LeBron, and Reggie Miller and Freddie Jones. And we go through this shooting workout, and watching us on the side was Larry Brown and Chuck Persons. And I'm thinking like Larry and Chuck and Reggie, probably some of the best shooters ever to play a game. And I'm like, I'm in amazing company. So I'm taking everything in, and unfortunately I got released. It came down, they signed Jermaine O'Neal to the max contract. So when you hit your max and you're over the luxury tax, so for every dollar you pay back two. So it came down to a numbers game. So you lose there was between me and Jameson Brewer, but he was making $2 million. So if they cut him, they'd have to pay him his money and pay him more. Whatever way it worked out, I got the raw end of the stick. Ended up going to the D-League. I spent 2 years in the D-League. I'm going to whisk through a bunch of these there now because I got to get to a couple of questions. But I ended up going overseas. I went overseas, and I mean, I played in amazing countries. My first year was in Italy. Then I went Croatia, lived in the Adriatic Sea, right by the Adriatic Sea. Played for Dražan Petrovic's brother, Aso Petrovic and Zadar. That was amazing. Then we went and spent 2 years in Gran Canaria in Spain. I spent almost 10 years, I spent over 10 years in Spain. And we went right through most of Spain. 2 years in Tenerife, or 2 years in Gran Canaria, Barcelona, Madrid, Sevilla, Northern Basconia, and Victoria. Back down to Sevilla, over to Canary Islands. So I spent a fair bit of time there. To me, that was the best league outside the NBA, hands down. Most stable, most money. So it was a point where, you know, I've led this league in scoring, won championships there. And then we went where? I went to Puerto Rico. We went to Greece. I went to Germany, went back to Spain. And then we came back to Newfoundland. So ultimately, this opportunity came back for me to come home. And I was in Germany. I was in Greece training. And I was about to sign there, but my heart wanted to be here in Newfoundland. And I didn't believe in the league at all. I knew the league was bullshit, but I knew that if I came home, there were so many good things that I could do for the province in the sense of just revamping basketball. I mean, just another night of entertainment. From the outside looking in, people don't respect the league. I feel the players are a high level, just need a lot of guidance on how it all works and how it all goes. But for me to play here in Newfoundland, I was like, this could be awesome. So anyway, we worked through some details, and yeah, end up getting her done. So we got it done, and on a Wednesday we signed, and ticket numbers were less than 1,000. We were going on the road for Friday, and when I announced on Wednesday, by Friday there was over 5,000, and people were just going nuts. I think a big part of me is people always watch me because I was one of the only basketball players to achieve the things from here. And then playing with Team Canada for a decade and a half, I mean, I was more popular in Toronto than I was in Newfoundland at a time in my career. And then I think it was kind of like a ghost. You know, people just knew of me, knew I went away, knew I played professional, see me in the summertime every now and again. And I was like, this is a time for me to make my mark here where I come from and to help the next generation. So the buzz started to build. We played, I thought I was in great shape, but we played first game on the road in PEI, and we were in PEI, and I was struggling a bit. I think I only had 12 points, and we were down 7. I remember hitting a 3, then I hit a 2-pointer, and I'm the kind of player, if I make one shot, I'm like, I'm on fire. I don't know if people watching are the same way. That's kind of how it is for me. I make one, I'm like, all right, give me the ball, I'm ready to go. So I could have missed the last 10, but the minute I make one, it's over. So anyway, Jeff Dunlop, the coach at the time, drew up a play, and the play sitting there, and I just been with the team for 2 days. So the Canadian guys kind of knew me, but just knew of me. And he drew up the play, and I was like, no, scrap that. I was like, this is what we're going to do. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to come fake down through the middle, reverse the ball around, and come off this screen here and knock down a 3 for the win. And everybody looked at me like, who the hell is this guy? You know, the Americans especially, like, who is this guy? I think Henry was talking some shit, and this guy was saying whatever. And I was like, trust me, guys, I got this. You know, I was like, this is what we're going to do. And they're like, all right. Jeff was like, all right, let's do it. So anyway, I walk out to the court, you know, I'm feeling confident as I normally do. And this guy on the other team is banging his chest. He's like, I'm gonna lock that up, blah, blah, blah. You ain't nothing. I looked him dead in the face with the referee, and I told him exactly what I was gonna do. And I told him, I was like, I'm gonna fake there. You're gonna hit that screen there. I said, I'm gonna hit a 3 at that elbow at 45 degrees, and I'm walking down the floor with my hand up in the air. And the referee's laughing. I was like, watch. And then sure enough, luckily for me, I made the shot. So I did exactly what I was doing. I told him I was gonna do. And I hit the shot, and I walked down off the court, and the guy just got his head down. And the referee was like, you know, everybody on the front line heard it. Everybody there, you know, and this kind of just solidified everything about me. And it kind of like just said, okay, he's here, kind of. And that story kind of got out, and the buzz was building. And then we go on to, you know, we won a couple more games. I think the next one had 38 in Halifax, and we were 3-2 coming off the road, which we were a franchise team. No one really had a clue and what we were going to do, but the buzz in Newfoundland was going crazy. So we were sold out for opening night, and you have to understand, like, I've played, there was like 60,000 people at one of these NCAA games when we played in Syracuse in the NCAA tournament my first year. I've played in Greece where they hold 20, like we average 20,000 in Madrid. Like I played in crazy cities with Team Canada. I've played in front of 30,000 people that were trying to rip your head off against their country. I mean, they're throwing money at you. They're trying to spit on you. It's, you know, so for me, nothing really phases me because I've experienced and played in so many different countries and so many different atmospheres that I'm like, you know, this ain't nothing. And then what really hit me was like, I'm nervous about playing in front of 6,500 or 6,000 people in Newfoundland. And I'm like, I think it was more that this is my home. And of those 6,000 people, I've probably crossed paths with well over half of them. You know, so it was kind of like, it was a whole different level of accountability. So, you know, I was extremely nervous leading up to it, and you know, I mean, they had the atmosphere set. You know, they played P. Diddy, I'm Coming Home to my intro, and the place went nuts. Like I walk out onto the court, and the guys on the other team are like, because this guy, like, who does he think he is? I'm like, all right, I'm about to show you. It's like, it was just like I said, it was like this myth or this guy that's been playing away for so long, and now he just comes home. And I think I had 18 in the first quarter, but I was like yelling and screaming, and I was using all this extra energy that I don't usually get caught up in. A little bit I get caught up in, but not as much as I was that night. And I just crashed and struggled for the next couple of quarters. And I think I finished in the high 20s, but we got the win. And then the second night it was sold out again, and I rocked out that night with 34 or something and got in a scrap towards the end of the game, and the place was going nuts. And, you know, it was kind of like, all right, we're here in St. John's, and, you know, I'm back kind of. And from then, that atmosphere just kind of built through the community, and we were like the hot ticket around. And I think we're at a time when we needed some positive news here in the province, and we needed a team to get behind, and we needed a local person that would rise that team, and I was that guy, and that's what was so special about it. But then that's when the book came into play, because after the game I decided to put in, like, we would sign for the fans, and there'd be nights I'd be out there an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'd just be signing. And, you know, it became part of the show. It became part of the night. But for me, it was special, because for me it was kind of like a thank you, because I realized that over the past 15 years or more, these people have been following me. These people have been, you know, supporting me without me even knowing. And then by them coming out, and, you know, we taking pictures, and so many people saying, "Hey, I followed your career with Team Canada." I mean, it was just a way for me to, you know, it was really special. So, you know, for me, it was like a full circle. Like, I left a child. I left a person that was been broken, confused, and then basketball took me all around the world, blessed me with so many things, you know, and it saved me. It saved me from everything I was dealing with, from, you know, the loss of my parents, my uncle, failure, you know, over and over again, disappointment. The one thing that was always constant, aside from my family, was basketball. And that's rare, you know. And I think now, as I work with kids, and I try to teach them the game, or just try to teach them, the big thing I try to teach them is love the game first. Like, it's not about, especially at a young age, like grade 6 and under, like, you're just trying to get them to have fun at what they're doing, for 2 reasons, or for many reasons. But the main reasons are, if they have fun doing it, they'll always come back to it. And then if they have fun and success and love doing it, well, then you can throw everything at them. Now you can push them. Now they can lose and continue to fight and work harder. Now they can have disappointment, because if you love something, you'll continue to work and fight for it. And that's what I try to put in, and that's what I try to instill, not only in my kids, but in the kids that I teach, or anybody for that matter. I mean, if you love what you're doing, you'll deal with all the things that comes along with it, because it's not always roses. Like, there's bad days, there's good days, there's, you know, you take it all in stride. I mean, it's all part of for me, the journey. And I think that's, so some of the questions I was getting asked was, did you enjoy the book, like doing the book? No, the book was a nightmare. The book was a nightmare for me to write, because it brought up all this failure, all this negative things that went on in my life. Am I happy with the product? Yes, I love the product. Am I happy I did it? Of course I'm happy I did it. I'm happy with the product and how I'm hoping it can help people. I'm hoping that they can look at it and be like, I'm struggling with some things in my life, but he didn't give up. To me, it's not a basketball story. Yeah, there's a lot of basketball in it, but it's a struggle of determination. It's a struggle of perseverance and hard work. It's a story of a small town kid just chasing a dream all around the world to play professional basketball. You know, I mean, people and things I've done just from basketball alone. I mean, it's pretty crazy, and it's pretty special.